Tarou Sakamoto, a legendary retired hitman, has become an overweight family man, only to be drawn back into the world of crime, this time to protect his family from a ruthless organization seeking revenge. The episode begins with Sakamoto showed up in one of the buildings packing a sword and a gun. Out of nowhere, an explosion rocked the place and a crew of assassins spotted him, ready to take him out. They started shooting at him, but Sakamoto was quick on his feet, blocking every bullet with his sword before charging at them. He took out the first assassin with a clean slash, blood spraying onto one of the other guys. Then he shot the second guy. Two more assassins came at him, but Sakamoto handled it. He strangled one and shot the other. The rest of the gang opened up with machine guns, but Sakamoto dodged every bullet like it was nothing. He fired back, wiping them out, leaving just one guy left frantically looking for him. Sakamoto showed up out to nowhere, aimed at the last guy, and ended the whole thing in a flash. After that, Sakamoto decided to leave his old life behind. While out shopping one day, he met a beautiful woman who totally captivated him. He fell for her hard, left his past behind, and they got married. Sakamoto had a kid and settled into a peaceful life, running his own shop and being a dedicated family man. One day, Shin, an old gang buddy, came looking for him. Meanwhile, at the shop, Sakamoto was playing with a young boy who often stopped by. The boy tried to hit a target on the glass with a fake arrow, but missed. Sakamoto's wife mentioned how the boy came often, and as he was getting ready for another try, some school supplies fell out of his bag and stained a customer's clothes with ink. The man got mad, grabbed the boy by his shirt, and started yelling at him. Sakamoto just watched calmly as the man kept going, and when the boy accidentally dirtied the man's clothes again, the guy raised his hand to hit him. Sakamoto stepped in, briefly imagining using a pen to knock the guy out, but didn't actually do it. The man insulted Sakamoto for being overweight and stormed out. The boy, in tears, thanked Sakamoto for stepping in, and Sakamoto's wife and daughter comforted him. Then Shin walked in, praising Sakamoto for his speed and control. Shin revealed he could read minds and pointed out that Sakamoto could easily taken down the guy earlier. Sakamoto briefly thought about striking Shin, but Shin read his mind and scolded him, reminding him of their past partnership and loyalty. Sakamoto served Shin some food, and Shin asked if he had really left his old life behind, wondering if opening the shop was the start of a new chapter. Shin also pointed out that Sakamoto had gained weight and urged him to go back to his old ways. Sakamoto just said he wasn't the same person anymore. Shin reminded him of his powerful past and the respect and fear he commanded among leaders. Frustrated, Shin told Sakamoto to reclaim his former glory, but Sakamoto ignored him and kept eating. Shin, exasperated, mentioned that Sakamoto used to eat street food and never cared for fancy meals. As Shin lit a cigarette, Sakamoto snatched it from his hand and pointed to a no-smoking sign. Shin was taken aback by Sakamoto's strength and realized it was a subtle warning Sakamoto could easily take him out if he wanted to. While Shin was still processing this, a man on a bicycle approached Sakamoto, greeted him, and asked for a favor. Shin was surprised to see Sakamoto helping others, which didn't match the tough guy image he had once had. Sakamoto and Shin went with the man to his house, where the man explained that a tree in his yard had gotten too big and its branches were out of control. Sakamoto quickly pruned the branches with incredible speed, leaving Shin in awe. Soon after, a woman came up to Sakamoto saying her daughter wouldn't eat, and Sakamoto managed to fix the issue and fed a little girl. Later, Sakamoto came across two crying kids fighting over a single ball. To settle things, he split the ball in half, giving each kid a piece and ending their argument. Shin grew frustrated with Sakamoto's new lifestyle and accused him of hiding his true self behind kind acts. He bluntly told Sakamoto he looked disgraceful now and said he was leaving. Right before he left, a small kid threw a toy arrow at Shin's head and ran off. Shin, really mad, yelled at the kid, and as he got into his car, he thought about how he hadn't seen Sakamoto in 5 years. He noted Sakamoto had gained a lot of weight but was still incredibly fast. Despite being frustrated, Shin felt a little happy and secretly hoped they could work together again. His excitement made him bang his head against the car's dashboard, shaking the vehicle and scaring some pedestrians. Shin then got a call from his boss, who asked if he had convinced Sakamoto to return. When Shin said no, the boss asked if he had killed him instead. Shin replied that he hadn't, saying that Sakamoto was overweight now and not a threat. Angry, the boss reminded Shin of the gang's rules. Anyone who retires has to be eliminated. The boss warned Shin that if he didn't kill Sakamoto, someone else would be sent to do it, and Shin would be killed too. Overwhelmed, Shin ended the call abruptly. He went to the store to buy some supplies and headed home, took a bath, ate, and lay in bed, deep in thought about his boss's ultimatum. Realizing that if he didn't act, someone else would harm Sakamoto, Shin grabbed his weapon and resolved to handle it himself. As he prepared, he recalled their past battles together. The next day, Shin went to visit Sakamoto at the store, claiming he was leaving the country and had come to say goodbye. Suddenly, Shin revealed his gun and fired at Sakamoto. However, Sakamoto deflected the bullet midair using a hard candy from his mouth, altering its trajectory and avoiding harm. Then, Sakamoto disappeared from sight, leaving Shin searching the store for him, unable to read his thoughts. Sakamoto distracted Shin by tossing a pack of chocolates, forcing him to shift his focus. Using candy as improvised projectiles, Sakamoto launched several rapid strikes mimicking bullets. Shin dodged them all. As Shin tried to fire again, Sakamoto threw a pack of pastries at him, further disrupting his aim. Shin paused, searching for Sakamoto again, but was caught off guard when Sakamoto appeared behind him and delivered a powerful blow that knocked him unconscious. Just before losing consciousness, Shin glimpsed Sakamoto as he had been in the past, strong and fearsome. Shin woke up in Sakamoto's home and was noticed by Sakamoto's daughter, who quickly informed her mother that he had regained consciousness. Surprised by his surroundings, Shin saw Sakamoto's wife preparing a large meal. She asked Shin how much rice he wanted, and he replied modestly, saying he didn't need much. Suspicious, Shin thought the food might be poisoned, but reassured himself that he was trained to handle such situations. As he began eating, he was overwhelmed by the delicious taste and admitted he had never eaten anything so good. He complimented the food, calling it excellent. Sakamoto's wife joked that Shin's reaction reminded her of how Sakamoto used to behave. Meanwhile, Sakamoto was busy feeding his daughter. Watching this, Shin reflected on the happy moment and realized that Sakamoto had retired to enjoy life. As Shin prepared to leave, Sakamoto escorted him outside. Embarrassed, Shin thanked him for the dinner, and Sakamoto pointed to a sign on the shop that read, "We hope to see you again." Shin returned to the gang's hideout where the boss confronted him, demanding to know if he had killed Sakamoto. Shin remained silent, prompting the boss to express his anger, calling it a disgrace that Shin hadn't followed through. Shin pleaded with the boss to leave Sakamoto alone, which made the other gang members laugh. The boss asked why Shin was so protective of Sakamoto, and Shin explained that Sakamoto now had a family and was no longer the same person. Shin even offered to sacrifice himself to spare Sakamoto's life. The boss coldly replied that if Shin wanted to save Sakamoto, he should kill himself. However, the boss secretly intended to target Sakamoto regardless. Reading the boss's thoughts, Shin declared that he never trusted him, revealing his ability to hear his thoughts. The boss was shocked, then ordered the gang to kill Shin. The gang members opened fire, but unbeknownst to them, Sakamoto had been eavesdropping using a listening device back at his shop. Sakamoto quickly transformed the device into a makeshift armory, selecting a gun. Meanwhile, Shin retaliated with his own weapon, managing to kill 4 gang members. One gang member attempted to ambush Shin, but Shin appeared behind him, delivering a swift kick to his neck that knocked him out. Another gang member pinpointed Shin's location and aimed a heavy weapon at him, but Shin read his thoughts and dodged the attack. The boss regrouped with the remaining gang members, chastising them for their inability to handle a single person. He explained that Shin was a psychic who could read their thoughts and instructed them to attack from a distance to avoid detection. They surrounded Shin, limiting his options. Realizing he only had 1 magazine of bullets left, Shin strategized his next move. He launched another attack, killing 2 more members, but a bullet struck his leg, immobilizing him. The gang encircled him, aiming their guns at him, leaving Shin in a state of shock as he faced imminent danger. Just in time, Sakamoto arrived, using his weapon to incapacitate the gang members surrounding Shin, knocking them to the ground. The gang leader saw Sakamoto and immediately ordered his men to kill him. The gang launched their attack, but Sakamoto countered with unmatched skill, wielding a pair of chopsticks to fight back. He swiftly defeated several gang members before one of them fired at him. Sakamoto caught the bullets with his chopsticks and then moved behind the shooter, grabbing him and throwing him into 2 other gang members. 2 others fired at him with machine guns, but Sakamoto deflected the bullets using 2 pens. He threw the pens at the attackers, killing them instantly. Sakamoto then leaped into the air, grabbing a long rope and landed forcefully on 2 more gang members, kicking them down. Using the rope, he tied up 2 others and flung them aside. Sakamoto dashed toward another gang member, snatched his weapon, and when another attacker tried to stab him from behind, Sakamoto avoided the knife and knot with a punch. Seeing this, the gang leader ordered his men to shoot Sakamoto. As they opened fire, Sakamoto revealed a sharp weapon, dodging the bullets while running at high speed. He destroyed the leader's gun and quickly killed the remaining 3 attackers. Shin, astonished by Sakamoto's actions, asked how he had located him. Sakamoto picked up Shin's gun and showed him a listening device he had planted earlier. Shin was amazed by Sakamoto's foresight and admitted that he was always right. Before Shin could finish his thought, Sakamoto cut him off, tossing him a work shirt and telling him he would be working at the shop. The scene shifted to the store, where Sakamoto and Shin were dressed in their work uniforms. Shin complained that Sakamoto should stop eating near him, pointing out that the noodles were almost finished because of him. Sakamoto's wife and daughter arrived, and the child ran happily to Shin, hugging him tightly. Later, Shin helped an elderly woman find what she was looking for in the store. A child then asked Shin to play with him, but Shin explained he was busy and would play after finishing his tasks. The child asked if Shin enjoyed his new job. Shin replied that he wasn't sure, but it was better than his previous one. Curious, the child asked about Shin's previous job. Reading Sakamoto's thoughts, Shin realized that Sakamoto was silently threatening to kill him if he revealed the truth. Nervously, Shin told the child that he used to work as a cleaner. Sakamoto glanced at Shin and continued eating his food. Shin continued restocking shelves and assisting customers, performing his tasks exceptionally well. When Sakamoto arrived, Shin couldn't help but comment on the last battle, praising Sakamoto's combat skills despite his significant weight gain. Sakamoto, irritated, told Shin to stop talking and get back to work. However, Shin persisted, expressing admiration for how impressive Sakamoto had been during the fight. Sakamoto's wife overheard Shin's remarks and questioned Sakamoto, asking if he had returned to fighting. Sakamoto immediately denied it. She reminded him of the rule in their marriage: if he ever returned to combat, it would lead to their divorce. Sakamoto reassured her that he remembered the rule. Curious, Shin asked what their marriage rule was. Sakamoto imagined himself eliminating Shin in frustration, which caused Shin to feel a sharp pain and yell at Sakamoto to stop. Angry, Sakamoto told Shin to keep quiet. Later, Sakamoto and Shin headed to Chinatown, where Shin was amazed by the vibrant surroundings. Shin asked Sakamoto if they were there to buy supplies for the store, but noticed Sakamoto purchasing pork. Sakamoto explained that it was for his wife and daughter. Shin mused aloud that Sakamoto must love his family deeply, and once again asked about the marriage rule. Sakamoto ignored him and kept walking. While they were in Chinatown, a young girl named O accidentally broke a window from a nearby building and fell, landing on Sakamoto and spilling the bag of meat he had bought. Furious, Sakamoto stared at the mess. Shin tried to console him, suggesting that they could clean it and it would still be usable, but Sakamoto dismissed the idea, saying it was ruined. Before they could leave, a group of men chasing the girl arrived on the scene. Prepared to face them. Shin suggested to Sakamoto that they should leave immediately to avoid getting involved, but Sakamoto, still angry about his ruined purchase, replied that they had spoiled his daughter's meal. Shin tried to reason with him, saying it wasn't the right time and they could make it up later. One of the men chasing O taunted her, asking if she thought she could escape them like a cat by jumping out of windows. O confidently declared that she didn't flee from men who were nothing more than puppets. 2 men attacked her, but she swiftly kicked one and defeated the other. 3 more remained, and one suggested surrounding her to prevent any escape. However, O leaped over one of the guys, hitting him from behind, then delivered a brutal beating to another. Shin watched in amazement at her strength. O then threw the last man into a nearby dumpster, and a large guy from the group grabbed her from behind, restraining her arms. Another gang member approached, holding a knife and threatening to stab her. Another member intervened, suggesting they torture her first. The guy with the knife smirked and proposed starting by cutting her legs so she couldn't escape again. Just as he was about to act, Sakamoto intervened, breaking the knife with a food utensil. The guy holding the knife froze in shock, and Sakamoto sent him to the ground. Shin used his bag to strike the guy holding O, and another gang member drew a gun, ordering them not to move. O acted quickly, striking the man's hands and causing him to drop the weapon, knocking him to the ground. Shin, still in disbelief, wondered who this girl could be. Meanwhile, Sakamoto looked mournfully at his spilled pork. The remaining gang members, determined to capture O, attacked Sakamoto, O, and Shin. Sakamoto quickly picked up O and ran, dodging gunfire. The gang struggled to keep up, but eventually gave up due to exhaustion. At the gang's hideout, one of the guys who had chased O pleaded with their leader, Dan, explaining that 2 men had helped her escape. Enraged, Dan scolded him her slip away again and struck him with his staff, reminding him that he had killed an entire clan to capture her. Dan dismissed the guy, but as he turned to leave, the gang's swordsman, Bito, stepped forward and decapitated him. The brutal act left everyone in the room paralyzed with fear. Bito, holding the severed head, pretended to stifle complaints, joking with Dan. Bito then stepped forward and sternly warned his brother not to joke about serious matters, calling him a fool. He added that the situation wasn't pleasant. Dan addressed the 2 brothers, emphasizing the importance of capturing the girl. He explained that the key she possessed was crucial because it would give them control over the black market. He ordered them to find her at all costs. Bito confidently stated that anyone who stood in their way would be killed. Dan gave his approval, telling them to do whatever was necessary. Meanwhile, O and Sakamoto continued running. Shin questioned O about what was happening to her. She revealed that she was the daughter of a major mafia boss, and the men chasing her wanted the key she carried. While jumping from rooftop to rooftop, she showed Shin the key. Shin suggested she hand over the key to save herself from trouble, but Oh refused. She explained that the key opened a vault with all her family's treasures. Her father had entrusted it to her. She recalled her mother tying the key around her neck while her father fought their enemies. Her parents had urged her to escape to ensure the key wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. Oh vowed never to give it up, asking Shin what she could possibly say to her father when they met in the afterlife if she failed to protect it. Oh apologized for burdening them and thanked them for their help before leaping away to distance herself. Shin tried to follow her, but Sakamoto grabbed him and stopped him. Sakamoto turned to Oh and asked if she could cook pork. Oh replied that her father had taught her how to prepare it and that she was capable. Sakamoto declared to Shin that their shopping trip was over and they would solve Oh's problem. He made a deal with Oh, promising to take care of the gang if she agreed to cook pork for them. Before Shin could respond, he sensed an incoming attack and tried to warn Sakamoto. However, it was too late. Beto delivered a powerful kick to Sakamoto's face, knocking him back and surrounding him inside the adjacent building with the gang. Shin grew increasingly worried about Sakamoto. Lu approached him, acknowledging how dire the situation had become. Meanwhile, Sun mocked Beto, commenting that his strikes had become weak. Beto dismissed the criticism, saying the initial blows didn't matter to him as he relished the thrill of killing and disposing of bodies. Sun retorted that even Beto's killing style had deteriorated. Confused, Shin asked who these two were. Lu explained that they were hired assassins, Beto and Sun, who, regardless of the payment, found immense pleasure in killing their targets. They were relentless, never failing to capture their prey. Afterwards, they would portrait their victims as a twisted hobby, a testament to their deeply unhinged minds. Beto casually remarked to Sun that they had become quite famous, asking if that wasn't a good thing. Sun disagreed, saying that as killers, they should avoid drawing attention. At that moment, Shin launched an attack on Sun, attempting to strike him. Sun effortlessly blocked the blow and mockingly asked if Shin was angry over the supposed death of his friend. Shin confidently replied that it was foolish for Sun to think his friend could die and stepped back, declaring that no one truly understood Sakamoto's strength as a warrior. Sun scoffed, dismissing Shin as a child. Meanwhile, Beto moved stealthily toward Lu from behind, aiming to strike her with his sword. Before he could land the blow, Sakamoto arrived just in time, delivering a devastating punch to Beto's face. The force sent Beto crashing into the ground, splitting the floor and causing him to fall to the lower level. Sun, watching casually, commented on Sakamoto's impressive punch, and Beto replied that the building was old and easy to damage. Turning his attention to Lu, Sun mockingly asked if she would hand over the key, promising to kill her gently. Lu stood her ground firmly, stating that the key was her only inheritance from her father, and that she would never part with it. Sun dismissed her words as outdated, questioning why she would risk her life for something as insignificant as a key. Lu, enraged, yelled at Sun to be quiet and charged at him in anger. Before she could reach him, Sakamoto intercepted her and threw her back to prevent her from acting recklessly. Furious at being stopped, Lu glared at Sakamoto, but Shin interjected, advising her not to let their words provoke her into losing control. Lu turned to Shin and explained that the vault the key unlocked contained all her ancestors' possessions. She shared that her father had died protecting it and had been killed by these same fools. As she spoke, Sun suddenly hurled a knife at her, but Sakamoto caught it midair, saving her just in time. Sun glared at Sakamoto, warning him not to interfere and suggesting that he should have let the knife strike Lu, allowing her to reunite with her parents in death. Sakamoto, unfazed, replied firmly that no one there could give him orders. Lu turned to Sakamoto and asked why he wanted to help her. At that moment, Sakamoto's mind drifted to a memory of his past. He recalled returning home to his wife after purchasing a gift for her. When he arrived, his wife asked why he was late. Sakamoto explained that he had been working, suspecting the truth. She pressed him, asking if it was his usual line of work killing. He admitted that he had to complete the job so he could buy her the gift. His wife refused the present, saying it was tainted with blood, just like his face. She told him there was no point in continuing their relationship and that they should part ways. Overwhelmed, she stepped off the edge of the building. Sakamoto, horrified, caught her midair and they embraced as they fell together. Emerging from the icy sphere, his wife admitted she had misjudged the height from the building to the ground. She approached Sakamoto, telling him that someday he might lose her and understand the pain of such a loss. She reminded him that everyone has someone they love and don't want to lose. She asked him to promise her he would stop fighting and focus on helping others. The memory faded, and Sakamoto returned to the present. Shin, deeply moved by the story, looked at Sakamoto with sadness. Sakamoto then turned to Shin and firmly stated, "That's my rule. I don't kill." The two brothers, Sun and Beto, launched a coordinated attack on Sakamoto and Shin. Beto aimed several strikes at Sakamoto, but none of them landed. Sun followed up with an attack, but Sakamoto skillfully blocked all of his blows. Meanwhile, Bito turned his attention to Shin, attempting to land a hit, but Shin evaded him. Shin tried to counter with a kick, but it was ineffective. On the other side, Sun threw a barrage of knives at Sakamoto, but Sakamoto dodged every single one. Frustrated, Sun hurled another set of knives, but this time Sakamoto caught them mid-air with ease. The brothers regrouped, and Sun asked Bito if he was thinking what he was. Bito confirmed with a smirk, and they launched a flurry of rapid, synchronized strikes at Sakamoto, but their efforts were in vain as Sakamoto avoided all their attacks without taking a scratch. Shin approached Sakamoto to check on him, asking if he was okay. Sakamoto reassured him that he was fine, though his muscles felt a bit stiff. Sun, frustrated and confused, asked Bito how Sakamoto was able to evade all their attacks without even a scratch. Once again, the Sun asked B if he was thinking what he thought he was, and B confirmed. They tried another attack on Sakamoto, but this time Sakamoto landed a heavy blow to B's head. Furious, the Sun attacked Sakamoto, but Sakamoto easily broke his weapon, leaving the Sun in disbelief, realizing he couldn't win. The Sun decided to capture LN and escape, but Shin, who could read his mind, intercepted the plan. Shin threw a rope around the Sun's neck and yanked him to the ground. Sakamoto then dropped a fridge on top of the Sun, completely taking him out. Lou, shocked by what she saw, asked, "What are you really?" Sakamoto, as ever, just said, "We're just shop workers," while casually eating a piece of crab. The scene shifted to Dan, who was furious in his office, hitting the vault, frustrated he couldn't open it and claim its contents. Moments later, Bao and the Sun were brought in, bound and defeated. Dan, startled, demanded to know who they were. Before he could react, Lou appeared behind him, holding a knife to his neck. Panicking, Dan begged her for mercy, promising to do whatever she wanted. Lou, cold as ice, told him to shut up, reminding him that nothing he did could bring her father back. With one final blow, she knocked him to the ground. Shin, watching, asked if she was satisfied and joked that he wouldn't mind throwing a few punches himself. Sakamoto, imagining silencing Shin for good, smirked to himself. Shin noticed and, annoyed, told Sakamoto to stop thinking that. Sakamoto firmly told him to stay out of it. Lou, catching her breath, remembered her father's advice not to kill people in the streets, even when they pissed her off, and to focus on living a happy life. She then turned to the vault and opened it. Everyone was stunned by the treasure inside, but Lou stopped them from going in first. Shin walked in, grabbed a book, and immediately started reading it. Meanwhile, Sakamoto was sifting through the jewels. Lou grabbed the book from Shin's hands, curious about what her father had left her. She noticed a letter in a small container and opened it. The letter was from her father, writing about the best drink ever and how grateful he was for it. Shin laughed and joked that he hoped the drink was as good as her father said. They all sat on the floor enjoying pork together. Lou commented how everything had been completely shattered because of the events leading up to this moment. Shin teased her, saying it was all her fault, and Sakamoto, tasting the pork, declared it was still delicious. Lou tried it and agreed, saying it was absolutely excellent. Lou showed up late at Sakamoto's shop, and Shin was immediately angry. He confronted her, asking why she was late. Lou brushed him off, saying it was just a small delay. But Shin snapped, pointing out that being 2 hours late was no small deal. Looking at the fridge, Shin noticed it was a mess. He criticized Lou, saying she was doing everything wrong. Lou, completely unfazed, said organizing things wasn't that important. Shin, clearly frustrated, remarked that she had no work experience. Lou sarcastically replied that she used to help her father wrap and bury bodies underground. Shin stormed over to Sakamoto, urging him to fire Lou, saying she wasn't fit for the job. Lou shrugged, repeating that organizing wasn't essential. Shin argued that the shop's success depended on things being in order. Sakamoto stepped in, telling Shin not to talk to Lou like that. He then calmly asked Lou to apologize if she was ever late again. Both Shin and Lou stared at Sakamoto in disbelief, surprised by how calm he was. Sakamoto, noticing their reactions, asked why they were looking at him like he was a ghost. He then told Shin to sit with him outside while he asked Lou to prepare the pork dishes. Shin mentioned that he'd never heard Sakamoto talk so much since working at the shop. Sakamoto casually responded that he was just speaking normally, then warned Shin to stop babbling too much or he'd kill him. Shin, deep in thought, realized how much Sakamoto had changed, noticing that this wasn't his usual way of speaking. Suddenly, another Sakamoto walked into the shop, leaving Shin in shock. The real Sakamoto calmly sat down while the newcomer greeted him before attacking him with a knife. Sakamoto dodged easily, countering by putting a weapon to the fake Sakamoto's neck. The imposter backed off, laughing, and revealed his true identity as an old acquaintance of Sakamoto. He admitted he still had a few tricks up his sleeve and was glad to show them off. Shin, confused, wondered who this man was and why he couldn't read his thoughts. The stranger laughed and apologized for the earlier attack, introducing himself as an old friend of those. He claimed to be 18 years old, and said he ran a shop down the street. Lu, skeptical, pointed out there was no other shop nearby, and Shin remarked that the guy looked way too young to be a longtime friend of Sakamoto. Sakamoto clarified that the guy was an old friend, but actually 27 years old. Despite the explanation, Shin and Lu were still suspicious and restrained the stranger, tying him to a chair to stop him from escaping. The stranger then revealed that Sakamoto's life was in immediate danger. He explained there was a 1 million bounty on Sakamoto's head, and anyone who killed him would get the reward. Shin scoffed, saying the amount seemed low for someone like Sakamoto. The stranger added that the association had made the decision to kill Sakamoto yesterday and that the news would spread by tomorrow. Just then, a pizza delivery guy entered the shop, asking who had placed the order. Lu excitedly admitted it was her order, happy to see it finally arrive. However, Shin read the pizza man's thoughts and realized he was an assassin. Before anyone could react, the delivery guy pulled out a pizza cutter and attacked the stranger, holding the blade to his neck. He warned everyone not to move, threatening to kill the stranger. Turning to Sakamoto, he grew more agitated when he noticed Sakamoto was completely unfazed, calmly continuing to eat. Furious, the assassin yelled at Sakamoto for ignoring him, and the situation quickly escalated. The stranger, now identified as Tojo, quickly overpowered the pizza assassin, choking him and rendering him helpless. Tojo looked at Shin and insisted he had been honest about everything he said earlier. He even suggested they team up and offered an alliance. Sakamoto, still totally calm, told Tojo to let the pizza guy go and leave. But Tojo asked how Sakamoto planned to defend himself against all these endless threats, and what he'd do if Tojo himself turned into an enemy. He quickly added he was just joking and assured them he wasn't one of the attackers. Before leaving, Tojo hinted that it might be time for Sakamoto to get back into the battlefield and fight alongside him again. As Tojo was leaving, Sakamoto called out, asking who else wanted to kill him. Tojo replied that it was a secret and couldn't say, but told Sakamoto to stay calm and composed, especially since he had a history of eliminating so many people. Lu, curious, asked Tojo if all the assassins would disguise themselves like the pizza guy. Tojo laughed and said he didn't think so, but assassins could be unpredictable. Picking up the unconscious pizza guy, Tojo addressed Sakamoto one last time, saying it was an honor to see him again and a privilege before he met his end. Shin tried to chase after Tojo, but he was too fast and disappeared. Lu then said it was time for her to return to China. Sakamoto, staring at the untouched pizza, noticed something strange on the screen of a hidden surveillance monitor linked to the association's headquarters. A cleaner, frustrated, was asking why they were going through so much trouble to kill Sakamoto. He said there was a man known as the Black Figure who was far more dangerous than Sakamoto. His long-haired colleague hesitated before replying that Sakamoto's true potential shouldn't be underestimated and suggested that Sakamoto could even kill him if he wanted. Irritated, the cleaner snapped at his colleague, asking why he was even talking to him. The long-haired man apologized, admitting he had a bad habit of saying unnecessary things. He then changed the subject and said he was hungry, suggesting they order pizza. The leader of the association warned his subordinates to be extremely cautious about Sakamoto, stressing that they couldn't defeat him unless they caught him outside his usual environment. He emphasized the importance of picking the right time and place and setting up tough conditions to weaken him. He also reminded them that Sakamoto used to be one of them, which made him even more dangerous. The cleaner assassin, skeptical, questioned why they needed to be so careful about Sakamoto. The long-haired man added that Sakamoto had been retired for 5 years and doubted his combat skills were still sharp. However, their conversation was cut short when Sakamoto appeared on their surveillance feed, calmly declaring that he was waiting for any of them to come to him. He promised to bury them in his shop. Shocked that Sakamoto could see them, they froze, and Sakamoto shot out the surveillance camera hidden in the pizza box. Later, Sakamoto and Shin sat outside the shop, talking about the recent events. Shin admitted he wasn't sure if Tojo could be trusted, but if what he said was true, they were probably in serious trouble. Sakamoto reassured him that they were fine for now, eating and drinking well, but emphasized the need to be ready for anything. He added that they should work on their skills because their enemies could be anyone. Sakamoto's wife and daughter then showed up, and his daughter excitedly said she was ready to go. Shin, curious, asked where they were going. She explained that they were heading to the amusement park, something she'd been looking forward to for a long time. Sakamoto, confused, admitted he didn't remember making any such plan, but agreed to go the next day. The group found themselves at the amusement park, but the adults quickly got bored. They went on a challenging ride that left them all dizzy and exhausted. Lu, visibly tired, rested while Sakamoto groaned, saying he felt like he was going to puke. Shin, concerned, jokingly offered to call a doctor, but Sakamoto's wife assured him it wasn't necessary and that Sakamoto would be fine. While they rested, Lu noticed a magazine in Sakamoto's daughter's hands. The girl excitedly explained that it featured a giant rabbit called Sugar Bunny, which she had been eager to see. Lou remarked that the rabbit was as big as a gang leader. Sakamoto's wife expressed how happy she was to have everyone together and urged them to enjoy the day. Meanwhile, Shin couldn't shake off Tajo's warning about Sakamoto being a target. He turned to Lou and suggested they ensure Sakamoto's family was safe and make sure no one could get close to them. Lou noted that the amusement park was crowded, which made it hard to spot any potential threats. Shin reassured her, explaining he could read people's thoughts within a 30-meter radius. He added that if someone had murderous intent, he'd sense their emotions right away. Annoyed, Lou asked if he also listened to her thoughts when they were together. Shin denied it, saying he was too busy with other things. Lou, somewhat relieved, said it was a useful skill to have. Soon after, Shin sensed a killer nearby and warned Sakamoto. Sakamoto calmly acknowledged the threat, while Lou distracted his wife and daughter to keep them occupied and make sure they didn't witness anything disturbing. The assassin, known as the Cleaner, approached Sakamoto, who prepared for the confrontation. They moved closer, the tension building until the Cleaner drew a knife from his box and lunged at Sakamoto in one swift move. Sakamoto grabbed a pen from the assassin's pocket and stabbed it into the Cleaner's body, instantly neutralizing him. Shin and Lou quickly arrived. Sakamoto's wife, not noticing any commotion, asked if anyone had heard anything strange. Meanwhile, Shin and Lou discreetly moved the Cleaner's body to a forest. Shin marveled at how Sakamoto had killed the man so efficiently, seemingly without even looking at him. Elsewhere, the long-haired man from the association reflected on his earlier warnings to the Cleaner about Sakamoto's strength. Despite the advice, the Cleaner had underestimated him.